You're listening to the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast, and I'm Lou Temlett. I'm guessing you're having a good day because either you've been on the mats, considering getting on the mats, or maybe taking yourself to train. I'm so happy you're here listening or watching this episode. Please don't tap out before the end. When you're a woman that wants to fight, start training Jiu Jitsu. I'd like to welcome Vicky Warren to my podcast. Hi Vicky, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. Apart from a slight injury that we may talk about later. But tell me about yourself and when you started training jiu-jitsu, because I know there's some prior martial arts in your heritage. Tell me more.
Yeah, of course. So I originally started training jiu-jitsu, I think it was the beginning of 2019. And it was because my best friend trained. She started training because a partner of hers at the time kind of introduced her as part of a date, I think it was.
Nice.
Which sounds amazing. Yeah. And I wasn't in the kind of best headspace at the time. So she suggested for me to come down and try a class or two because she knew that I'd had previous martial arts. And I went down, had my first class, got tapped, beaten up, came away bruised and absolutely fell in love. And from there I kind of carried on and it's just not stopped. But
nice.
Yeah.
I think many of us could experience the getting beaten up and bruised, but coming away absolutely loving it and wanting more for some reason.
It is. It's like I said before, when someone's asked me at work, they've said, why would you want to do it when you're just getting bruised all the time? Because I used to come in with fingerprint bruises everywhere. At one point, I got my arm pinched between a knee and a mat. So I had a bruise, huge size bruise on my arm, which was black for probably about 3 weeks.
Oh my
and
goodness.
I had one of my colleagues say, why would you do that? Why would you put yourself through it? And I said, there's a weird thing about kind of human connection within jiu-jitsu. It's like it's something that you crave. As soon as you've done it, it's this whole community vibe that you're in, and you come away and you're like, I'm craving it, I want to go back. And it's not even to learn more. Sometimes it's just to kind of roll around, I suppose, and hug people violently. But
yes, I would agree with that one. Definitely the connection. From my perspective, you know, that's one of the things that I thrive on, is having that connection with other human beings. If you work on your own or you work in an office, sometimes it's just head down and you're getting on with life or business or even looking after the kids. Because I know you're a new mum now, which is very exciting. Congratulations. Have you dared to step back on the mats yet?
I have. So the nice thing is my partner also does jiu-jitsu and he was previously a boxer. So he's also martial arts, born and bred from really young childhood. And he knows how much kind of being, I suppose, doing exercise and being active and being in that kind of social space has been for my mental health and how great it is for physically and mentally as a person. And he kind of saw that I was losing that a little bit, especially, I know some people train up until they're about 8 months, but being a first-time mum, I was quite worried. So I stopped after, I think I was about 3 months pregnant. And that's when I stopped. So it's been a long time since I've been on the mats. So me and him started rolling in my living room, which was really fun. As soon as a baby was down for a nap, we literally whopped on our no-gi gear and then kind of started having a little bit of like rounds. And then there were certain things that he was teaching me that he's been watching and he's been doing. And then we had our first open mat last month and I went and it's like riding a bike. It's something you never, ever forget. As soon as you go back into it, it's like all these things start clicking, like, I remember this. And it felt incredible. But I did come away with muscle soreness for about 5 days, I have to say.
That's fine.
So
Reigniting all of those great muscles that were working in a certain way before pregnancy and then, you know, back in the swing of things.
It's something I learned. I now need to kind of pace myself rather than going full throttle because that's something I missed. And I went straight for it and then no.
Look, we have to learn the boundaries and the limits, physical, mental and emotional, and you just tested them. It's okay.
Yeah.
So are you kind of back training regularly? Is there a balance between childcare and training now?
It's very hard, especially with having a business as well. So at the moment, it's kind of just me and my partner. We have mats in the garage and it's just as and when we have time, basically.
Nice. That's good. It's good that you've got the space and that there's balance in life, because some of us know when you become a mum or a parent, you have to balance all of these things. And it's what do you want more? We love our children. We're bringing our children up to be good, strong, resilient individuals. But equally, if we're not fulfilled and maintain our own well-being and connection, then we're no good for them either. So
Yeah.
I support and applaud you for having a balance in life and being able to train.
Thank you.
Tell me, you are very welcome. I think there's not enough thanks and praise for the steps that we do take in life. And I think it's really important to honour that space, because we can normalise all of these behaviours and go, oh, yeah, we just train 3 or 4 times a week. That's just what we do. No, that's amazing. You know, some people I'm talking to, you know, train 2 or 3 hours a week. Some of them train 15. Whatever it
Yeah.
works and looks like in your life is an achievement. And certainly this soon after giving birth. Tell me about your martial arts experience before jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So my family has always been heavy on martial arts. And it was because me and my brother, when we were younger, we were bullied quite a lot. My brother, a lot more than what I was. He went through a very, very hard childhood at school. So we got put into karate at a really young age. I think I was probably about 6 and my brother was 8. And it's been something that we started as kids, and then my parents watched us and was like, this looks fun. They got involved, and then
No
it became
way.
a whole family.
That's so good.
Yes. And it got to a point where we were kind of competing really heavily around Europe. Every other weekend we would travel as a family, like instead of going on big holidays, it was
Wow.
like weekends away constantly. And we would travel all around the UK as well. And it was yeah, we became a family of black belts, which is really fun.
I've just got goosebumps with you talking about that. It sounds incredible, and that you as children inspired your parents to start training. I think that's just wonderful, having that inspiration and going, yeah, I can have a go at that, regardless of
Yeah.
age or, you know, gender. You're just going to have a go. So well done to them. I don't suppose they're still training.
My mum started training again when she lived in Spain about 5 years ago. And then, unfortunately, due to a back injury, she stopped. But me and my brother keep saying that we want to go back to it and we're going to at some point. And then I found jiu-jitsu, and then I kind of introduced him to jiu-jitsu and he loved jiu-jitsu now. So me and him have kind of gone off this way.
Oh.
Whereas my mum and dad, bless them, I think they're now, my dad's past the point of doing that due to kind of personal injuries or just life, I suppose.
Yeah. I think, you know, just continuing as long as you can and then returning to something. Like you say, it's that muscle memory. It's something that you never forget. You know, if you learn to ride a bike, then you can always ride a bike. Likewise,
Yeah.
if you're used to training martial arts, whether it be karate or jiu-jitsu, you're just going to flow into it. Although I know at the very beginning, when I wasn't able to train for a couple of weeks, I felt really rusty and felt like I knew absolutely nothing. And I'm just, you know, with my current injury, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to just feel and learn and watch a bit more. But I feel like the desperation to get back on the mats is, you know, going to have to be mindful of that one.
It's a real FOMO, isn't it? As soon as you're away from the mats, especially if you sit and watch. I always did this whenever I was injured. There was at one point, pretty similar to your injury, actually. I got injured and I sat there and watched. And it was within my first couple of months of doing jiu-jitsu. And I couldn't sit and watch. So I made the injury worse. I ended
Oh,
up going onto the
no.
mats. Yeah, it's because I sat there watching, and because I was already in gym leggings and a top, I was like, no, why not? Let's go do a bit of no-gi. Jumped on the mats, did one
Yes.
spar, and then made my injury 10 times worse. And then I was off for a month rather than a couple of weeks. So
Yes, I do feel like that's the way. Certainly, I've been debating. I take the kids to their class and then I have my class. Do I go in my no gi kind of stuff and then take my gi just in case? Or do I just completely back off and wear something that I could never go on the mats with? You know, there's that balance, but that'll be tomorrow's decision. So, just for anyone that hasn't been following my Instagram stories. I had my little finger broken during some sparring last weekend, which is not too long ago. I've been adapting. The pain is subsiding, but there's certain things I can't do. But we're women that fight, Vicky, so we're going to keep going, whatever happens.
Oh, 100%. And that's the thing. It can either hold you back, stop you doing it completely, because there's this irrational fear that then comes in going, oh, I can end up breaking this or doing this or doing this. But as long as you take precaution, I suppose, and it also comes into picking your training partner as well, and ensuring that you've got that safety on the mats. And unfortunately, sometimes it can't be helped. If there's, especially with newer members of clubs, they get very excited and they can end up hurting you even more. And they're not meaning to. It's excitement or like overpowerment. Sometimes a bit of ego comes into it, especially when you're a woman, and it can be, I suppose, an ego bruising sometimes when we've been doing it a bit longer and someone new comes in, and unfortunately we're kind of making them tap or things like that. It then becomes a game of strength, which as a woman, when you're against a man, unfortunately, sometimes it's not going to match up. It can't physically do it. But I suppose it's just kind of having that attitude to keep going and go, do you know what? It was a one-time thing. It's not going to happen every time.
Yes, we sign up for these things. We know the risks, we know the consequences, but we're still going to do it anyway. Although I still get really squeamish at the bone breaks and the things that are going the wrong direction when I see Instagram reels. I kind of, it's looking through one's fingers going, not sure about the sound, and I can't quite, take on board that. So I try to avoid those reels. I obviously had to go to the hospital to get my finger sorted. I drove myself there like you do. And I was chatting with the nurse and she said, oh, how did you get your injury? And I said, well, I was playing jiu-jitsu. And she just laughed at me. She went, oh, that's original. Yeah, you can play jiu-jitsu. But obviously there was, I was playing. I was having a good, easy time. But like you say, we're dealing with possible ego, possible strength. And I think as women, we do become vulnerable to other training partners, usually men that, kind of have a bit more strength and maybe aren't quite as highly ranked through experience as we are. And, we have to keep ourselves safe and aware that these things could be happening as well. And I think, like you're saying, there weren't many people on the mats having the opportunity to spar and do some more kind of training. An hour or so is not usually long enough. And I don't know about you, whether you feel like you want to be on the mats longer. Yeah. Maybe it's like flying hours. Not that I'm a pilot, so I've got friends that are. It's clocking up those hours on the mats or hours in the sky. But we always want more. And I think that's the addiction that keeps us coming back.
Yeah, I think especially when you get in the flow of like doing roll after roll, like 5-minute rolls. Like my club, for example, we used to do an hour and a half lessons, and the last half an hour is rolling. Whereas an hour of kind of doing drills, where you do 15-minute warm-ups, the rest of it doing drills, and then it's doing just sparring. And after that half an hour of doing just 5 minutes on, and then like a 30-second break in between. Yep. You just sit there and go, is the class over? Is that it? I want to kind of keep going. I'm now in the flow of doing it. And it's, I used to stay behind quite a lot and get moaned at for being home very late.
I love that. This is the Jiu-Jitsu Lou podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK. Go and check out the latest video clips over on jiu.jitsu.lu on Instagram. And I'd really appreciate you dropping the show a rating or review, as you may be listening on your favourite podcast platform. Today, I'm having a conversation with Vicky Warren, founder of Women That Fight. Vicky, I'd love to hear more about Women That Fight. Tell me more.
So the idea originally came up, and it's a bit selfish of me. It was more of me trying to get myself some things to wear. I'm a no-gi girl completely through and through. I love training in gi, but because I did karate for so many years, wearing a gi was like wearing, like, it's like you putting on your jacket every single day. It was a constant. So I wanted something different. As soon as I tried no-gi, absolutely fell in love with it. That was my bread and butter. I was like, this is me. And I like funky patterns. I liked the shorts to spats, different ones. You don't have to just wear spats all the time or just wear shorts. I like long sleeve, short sleeve, rash guards, and trying to find stuff that fits my body as a woman was really frustrating, especially when you look at the bigger brands. I'm not going to name brands, but when you look at some of the bigger brands, even some of the smaller ones, you look at sizing, and their sizing charts are predominantly male. And it doesn't help that some brands will have a different sizing chart to others. So you're like, okay, well, am I a small? Am I an extra small? Do I fit into a medium with this brand? And it was like a trial and error. And I remember there was one time I was trying to find a pair of spats because I've been wearing shorts all the time, because women, we have curvaceous figures, we have hips for a reason, especially childbearing. So wearing spats that fit a man is not going to have the same effect as a woman's body, especially when you have those natural curves, whereas men don't necessarily have those natural curves. And being into a jiu-jitsu sport, I think most women could protest this, you do end up getting a larger bottom when you're doing jiu-jitsu.
Yes,
it comes
absolutely.
in part
The squats does it. The squats do it for me.
Exactly. Even the pulling of guard sometimes, doing that on repeat is enough.
Okay, more pulling guard.
Yes. But it was then trying to find ones that wouldn't be either see-through when you were then trying to kind of go down on different levels. And then there was the issues with the actual pattern. When like certain materials stretched, you'd see the underlay of the white material come through. And it was then like, I've just bought these beautiful spats because I want to show off this wonderful pattern on it. And you can't, because it's just completely ruined as soon as you put it on because of my curves. And then it starts to make you feel a bit underwhelmed about your own body, and it's not something that I like. I'm all about female confidence, body confidence. I think you should be comfortable no matter what size you are. I mean, I've been from being in very, very heavy categories and then being in one of the lighter categories, so I've kind of gone back and forth between, especially going from karate. When I was 13 years old, I mean, I weighed 69 kilos. So it's one of those things, you fluctuate, especially as women's weight. We fluctuate all the time. I didn't want to keep wearing brands that were making me feel self-conscious and then making me feel like, actually, I'm going to just do a gi in this competition. So it got to the point where I was only competing in gi. So I thought, enough is enough. I'm going to just make my own. So I made my own for me. Absolutely fell in love with the material. I had a wonderful supplier that I speak to on a weekly basis, and me and him kind of went through different materials that we could use. He sent me a couple of samples. I tried them on, and then I wore them to my club, and one of my friends was like, I really like that rash guard. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, actually, there isn't a female's brand. There's brands that cater to women, but even the women that even women I've competed with, let alone trained with, have explained to me about how some of the women's sizing or the fabrics they use, it's not great when it comes to the curvier side of our bodies, like our breasts, our hips, our bottoms, our thighs. And it's quite it's upsetting. So they end up just buying a larger size, which doesn't fit correctly, but it fits in certain places. And then you end up having these like baggy areas that you have to keep adjusting when you're rolling, and it's uncomfortable. So this was on the back of me. I used to teach a women's class at my club every Friday night, and we started getting quite a few more females come in. And after hearing them complain as much as I used to complain, I was like, there's a gap here. This needs to be filled. So I took it upon myself, and I did my Instagram post for the first time and said, going to try this brand, see what you guys think. I reached out to some of my friends and did kind of a WhatsApp group with them, people that did jiu-jitsu and people that didn't. So a lot of my friends go to the gym, so even just the gym girls. And I said, how would you guys feel if I made these? And I sent a couple to a few of them, and they tried them on, and some of them did like squat workouts with them. They said, they're so comfortable. Like, these shorts are amazing. Like, where did you get these from? And I was like, I made them. And it kind of just blossomed from there, to be honest. And the feedback that we've been getting and just the support from women, and it's not just in the UK, I mean in Europe as well. I go to Cauliflower Camp. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's run by Gami, who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. It's Gami, Astrid and Margarita, 3 amazing black belt jiu-jitsu women, and they run it, and it's an all-women's camp in Germany. And it's it's incredible vibes. And when I went there, some of the girls there wore some of my rash guards, and their support I was like, this is coming all the way from Germany. This is incredible. And I started getting more Europe sales, and then I started going a bit more international. I got some American people wanting it. And you look at it afterwards, you're like, oh, this is my baby, and it's grown. And like, it's actually wonderful to see it wasn't just me feeling that way,
Yeah.
that other women did feel this way. And I'm now actually doing
Yeah.
something for them. So it feels incredible that it's come to where it's coming to, and I'm hoping it's just going to get bigger and go further.
I just want to say well done for taking the steps to actually put something in place, firstly to help yourself and, you know, kind of the population of women that do train jiu-jitsu. I know when I've, you know, chosen rash guards, I usually have to buy the men's extra large to fit the boobs, and the rest of it just happens. But I've experienced the lining of leggings or spats, whatever, showing through, and it does really knock your confidence because you kind of feel too big in them when actually it's just the fabric, because the rest of it's baggy. It's just in certain places it feels see-through-y, even though it's not. It really does affect your well-being. And if you're opting to do no gi, I feel like you really do need attire that feels comfortable and fits well, because, you know, we're all about selfies when we're all kind of group shots. We're all being photographed and documenting our journey, and that's equally as important. Let's not skirt over the importance of seeing our own progress. So I think it's important. We all judge each other by what we look like. That's inherent. That's part of society. And I think we judge ourselves as much, if not more, from how we look. We can all be comfortable, but there's still often some niggly things that we don't like. And that's okay. You know, like there's work to be done.
Yeah. And that's something that you should, I suppose, see within yourself. That's not something that should be pushed upon you because of like I don't want to say poor stitching or poor materials, but I suppose not the thought put into the materials or who they're catered for.
Yeah,
and that's something that's huge.
And I think, like you found, the majority of, you know, jiu-jitsu, no-gi, rash guards and spats are generally for men. There aren't that, you know, wealth of equipment and wear for women. And that's just a thing. You know, you see the number of women on the training mats. I'm so grateful that it's growing and becoming more, but that's traditionally not where we were. And there's still a long way to go.
Definitely.
I think, tell me what's next with your brand, because I believe you might have done some logo updates or some design updates recently.
Yes, so I'm launching a new collection within the month, by the end of July anyway. And it's going to be something a little bit different, because most of the things I've done at the moment is kind of just our brand logo to get it out there on either what I call the basics collection, which is just nice, like funky colors. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the designs, but our turquoise rash guard is one of our biggest sellers, and it's because it's such a lovely color. It complements all skin tones, and it's just the fits as well, I suppose. But I've kind of been going from doing more brand awareness, I suppose, trying to get us out there, and as a company growing so people can spread our name, see who we are. They'll see a rash guard and go, oh, WTF, that's really cool. It normally means something else, but now we're kind of taking a queen on it.
You've played on that, and I think that's really, really clever. I was trying to kind of work out, and then I kept going, no, it's not that. It's women that fight. I had to do a sense check.
Yes, well, that's the nice thing, because I suppose that's the standout part that I wanted to do to start with. And it was just getting people to look at it. I had one of my old students from when I was teaching before I fell pregnant. She wore one of my rash guards to her first ever competition. And she had two of the girls in her category go, your rash guard's so cool. It means what the, and then she was like, no, read it. And then they read in between it and was like, oh, that's really cool. They had a huge conversation with me at the end of their matches. And I was like, yeah, it's a full women's brand. And that's not me kind of disregarding men or saying that they can't buy at all. I've had men buy from me. I've had some guys call up and ask for custom sizing. So it's done for a man size, more than happy to do it. It's them supporting women that fight, which is the whole point. So yeah, it's going well. But I'm hoping that we're going to keep progressing. We're going to bring out more designs, more. I want more pictures. I've got a couple of people who are actually designing some kind of artwork to go on some pieces as well, which will be really funky and cool. We're hopefully coming out the end of the year, and we are looking as well, which will be dropped soon on the Instagram and social medias, that we're going to be venturing out into Fight Like a Girl, which is going to be a spin-off on WTF.
Nice.
And it's going to be for the young ladies out there and the children, because there is a lot more females and children that are actually competing. So I don't want them to be missing out because of adult sizing either.
Oh, I think it's a really amazing brand. And I think when we're training jiu-jitsu, certainly, you know, because we're training with mostly men, certainly my experience of, you know, kind of sparring, rolling with men. But actually, when it comes to competition, we're only there to fight other women. And actually, I think on one of the previous podcast episodes, there are often, depending on which age and weight category you're in, there are an abundance of women, but in many of the categories there aren't an abundance of women. So there aren't women like us or like you or like me that are there to fight. So having that experience is kind of the challenging bit. And, you know, I think your brand is just that empowering kind of sense to maybe encourage more women that train that haven't competed yet, that may be feeling like it's a good idea to go into competition. It is a good idea. Go and do it.
Yes, it is. No, that's wonderful to hear, because there's something that I wanted to kind of put out there, because as you say, the categories that you see, there's just as many categories in the women's side of competitions, but the numbers that you get are so sparse and few and far between. I've seen so many people pending in competitions, and then I get one fight, whereas someone who's the same weight as me as a man will have about, I don't know, anything between 6 to 12 fights. And it's really disheartening then when you've been training so hard and putting in so much work to improve yourself and go, I've got these like competition coming up, I'm so excited, and you gear yourself up for it, and your anxiety's at a new high, everything. You get there and then you realize, oh, I've only got one fight. And then it's almost everyone always says to me, oh yeah, but that must be easy. Like, no, the anxiety is 10 times worse, because you're like, now everything is riding on one fight. And you could look at it either way. It could be very disheartening and say, oh, I've only got one, what's the point? Or you could put absolutely everything in it, and then it's the flip side where I'm even more anxious than what I was, because if I now lose, I've lost the whole thing, rather than just losing one fight and potentially being able to fight for that third place or something. And it's as a woman being in competitions, it's very hard, but competing is worth it. It's so worth it. And if you are listening, you have to go compete. It's an amazing experience.
Definitely. On the last episode with Kerry Davidson, we talk about her particular addiction to competing. I think she had like three competitions in the last 6 months. And of course, that wasn't 3 matches. There were multiple matches. And I think she's got about 10 medals already, which is just incredible as a white belt. Certainly my experience in competing, I knew there were only 3 of us, and I'd toned down my fight energy. I don't know, like you say, it can go either way. Either you can go, right, I'm all in, but the anxiety is high, or you can kind of settle for just kind of getting in there. But how wonderful would it be to have an abundance of women in all of the categories, so that you don't just see the lone competitor in their category, or a lower category than they should be in the first place. And this is what we're trying to do: encourage more women and girls and everybody else to start training jiu-jitsu, because as mums, you will soon find out you will need the calm, you will need the patience of what jiu-jitsu can give you. I know it's certainly changed my whole mindset in being a parent, it's just, allowed a different sense of calm and considered movements and just considered mindfulness. Both my children train, which I'm so grateful for. And I had a lovely comment from one of them last week. They said, don't really like jiu-jitsu, but it's a really great life lesson. I'm going to keep training. And
That's wonderful.
they're only young, like my youngest one. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I had that much wisdom at 7, I'd be maybe in a different place, but training jiu-jitsu maybe earlier.
Yeah.
I want to know a bit more about your competition background and kind of how that's driven your energy for women that fight as well.
I think it's coming from a place where I used to compete so much as a child. I mean, I was competing from the age of 8 years old, all the way up until I think I was probably around about 21 when I stopped doing karate, stopped competing in karate anyway. I stopped actually doing karate when I was around 18, but I did a couple of competitions with my mum after that on Mother's Day because she wanted me to.
Oh,
it was a really lovely day that we spent together, and we both went and competed for a couple of years. And I think having that gap between then and all the way to 2019, 2019 when I first went back, started doing jiu-jitsu, so back into a combat sport, the itch to compete was so big. I did my first competition. Yeah, it was massive. Being on the mats again, just that smell of being in a gym with the mats, and most people are like, it's disgusting, it's sweaty. I'm like, I loved it. I walked in and was like, this literally feels like home. This reminds me of my childhood. This is amazing. And no matter how much I was getting beaten up, and not beating up in a horrible way, fun beating up, beating up on the mats and conquering certain moves and being able to go, I pulled off that arm bar that we learned today. It never stopped me thinking, I want to get back out there. I want to compete again. I want to see what this is like in a competition. I miss being in those big sports halls where you hear the talking everywhere and you can smell the mat space and everything. And then you go and weigh in, and it's that rush anxiety until you get on that mat. And as soon as you step on that mat, it's like everything goes silent. There is no anxiety. Everything's gone. All you can see is that person in front of you and the ref stood beside you. I don't even notice the scoreboard. I don't notice how much time is left. I regularly say to my partner, because he's someone that coaches me, which I absolutely love and thank him for. Whenever we go to competitions, he'll be in my corner shouting. And same with some of my old training partners. And I always say to them, I'm like, don't tell me what to do, because I'll get distracted and lose focus what I'm doing. I go, shout me the times and the score, just periodically, because I can't get up and look. If I start looking, I'm distracted straight away. I'm in the zone. So you've just got a random guy at the end of the thing going 30 seconds.
Do you know what? I was one like that, because unlike you, I wasn't not looking. I just couldn't see because I'm so short-sighted. I had no idea what it was saying. So I needed one of those people.
That's another thing as well. When I'm on the other side of the mat, I'm squinting because I'm not wearing my glasses to see what the time says. So I was like, it's better to have kind of someone there to help with that side of it. But it's the rush for me. I'm not going to sit there and say that I don't feel anxiety. I feel anxiety like no one. Mine is at a new heightened level when I go into to compete, straight from the moment from when I'm weighing in up until when my match is called and I'm actually walking on there. Even when they're loading my name up on the screen, my hands are shaking, my feet are going. I have to step my feet on and off the corner of the mat just to kind of stay in the zone. I can't be one of those people that sits there with headphones and listen to music, because I end up getting a bit too much in my own head and I'm like, oh, and I'll psych myself out. And I've had that before in the mat, and it was horrific. I came off getting completely annihilated by this wonderful person that I thought she was incredible. She came and gave me a hug afterwards because I was crying. It was that bad. And I remember they said, oh, you need to fight for third now. And I'd had everything drained out of me. I was like, I don't want to. I'm so disheartened. I felt like I did a rubbish job. I'm so and it was because I'd spent all day with headphones in going, get in the zone. And I just wasn't there. I wasn't listening to the atmosphere. I wasn't paying attention to what was going on. I was trying to stay within myself in my own head, but that was 10 times worse because I was psyching myself out. And I had my teammate get my coach on the phone, And he just swore at me and was like, get your on the mat, like, you can do this. And then I had my teammates slap my back so hard, like, come on. And then my partner just shook me. And I was like, okay. Kind of just got shook back in the room. And yeah, I went on there and I think I won something like 27-4 or something like that in points. It was
Wow.
amazing. And I was like, I do have it in me. It's great. And as soon as that match was finished, I was like, I want to fight more. And I
Yeah,
needed
that's
to
the
fight
thing, isn't
more.
it? You want
Yeah.
more and you want more. And I think
Yeah.
what you've just mentioned about being present, I think that's one of the things that some of us really value, being completely present. Everything else is out of your mind and you're just
Yeah.
in that moment. And I think that's the most valuable thing, certainly for some of us. I know others, value the zoning out, but being present in that moment, having the connection with the bigger space, the atmosphere, the whole feeling and the energy, just filling you in that moment rather than a third party thing. I think that's really nice that you shared that.
It's something I think is important for people to kind of get to grasps with. People
Yeah.
think that when they go to matches, I've had like students, I've also had other jiu-jitsu practitioners that I've kind of done jiu-jitsu with. I've had my teammates, I've had people that are on another team. They all say the same thing. They're like, oh, it's just so anxious. I don't know if I should. And you're not the only one. Everyone feels it. There are black belts out there. There's Fionn Davis out there, who's one of the world champion. She will tell you she probably feels anxiety before a match. It's a normal thing, and it just means that you care. You love what you're doing, and it's a positive. It's not a negative thing to ever draw from. If I don't feel anxious, I know something's wrong. I'm like, I'm a bit too comfortable here. This isn't. But at the same time, it's not putting so much weight on it. It's a match. I've gone and competed against this amazing lady in jiu-jitsu, and she's well known for her arm bars. And I was petrified about going up against her, and she's a lot younger than I am. They had to merge our categories, and she weighs a lot less than me as well. They actually had to merge our categories together because there was no one in mine, no one in the one between us, and no one in hers. And they asked us both, and I said, I'm happy to if she is. And she was like, yep, no problem. And I kid you not, my match lasted 28 seconds and I was armbarred. I went flying through the air and was dropped down in this beautiful armbar. And as soon as I tapped, we both got up and I laughed and hugged her and was like, that was amazing. And I came away from it giggling my head off. And everyone was like, are you right? And I was like, that was amazing because it felt incredible. And I was like, I've seen her do it. And I trained so hard to not let her do it. And it just happened. And I was like, yeah, this girl's incredible. And to be the person that was armbarred like that, I was like, kudos, that was so much fun.
Good work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's having that, I suppose, acknowledgement of someone being amazing as well. You don't need to come away being sore about it or feeling hurt. And that, I think, is what I've seen personally in the different sides between women competing and men competing, because the women they give a massive hug afterwards, they come away talking and going, that was awesome, where do you train? And you see them on the podium, they're laughing and talking with each other, and men do that as well, but there also is a lot more of men that will just tap hands, go well done, walk off, and that's it, they're done. There's not that kind of sense of I suppose communication afterwards, whereas women, I suppose we just love to chat.
Yeah, we do love to chat. Anyway, I will be drawing this podcast to a close. You'll have to come back on, Vicky, because there's more to hear from you. What are you up to next, quickly, if I haven't already asked you that one? And how can people get hold of you and find out more and buy some of your amazing Women That Fight clothing?
Yeah, sure. So up to next, as I said, we're designing some new bits that are going to come out. We are going to also, I brought out a gi last year, 2 gis, which was the Def Moth and the Sakura collection. We will be designing some more gis that are going to be coming out towards the end of the year. I'm hoping to bring them out once a year. I'm going to do 2 every year, so then the other ones will be discontinued. So then they're not kind of a huge market of them. Not everyone's going to be wearing them, essentially.
Yeah.
But if you want to reach out to us, you can get us on Instagram, which is at WTF.womenthatfight, or you can send me an email, which is WTF.combatapparel@gmail.com. If you want to buy any of our lovely merch, which I'm wearing today, it's WTFwomenthatfight.com, and we accept all type of payments. We accept kind of customization as well. So just pop me a message, and if you want your name on it, we can get your name on it as well. So.
Amazing. Vicky, thank you so much for your time and energy. I've felt supported and energized with our conversation, and I'm going to go and check out your apparel range now.
Thank you so much. Anyway, and thank you so much for having me on here. It's been amazing.
I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for telling your friends about the show. And as soon as this episode ends, I'd really appreciate you dropping the show a rating and a review. Thanks again for listening. Catch you on the next episode of the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast.